Okay, let's get right into the top frame assembly. We'll go into the instruction menu here, and then we'll end up going to the main menu. The only thing I don't like about this area is you can't go to each one of these individually. You got to go back to the full section, then go to these little 9 blocks here and go ahead and select the step that you left off at to get back there. So it's step 84. So this starts the top frame.
All right, so we're going to begin the top frame assembly here. And once again, as you can see in the instructions, you've got 2 625s and then you got 2 rounded ones. Now, make sure you check the rounded ones for this step. They have 2 holes on each end, and the other ones here that we don't use yet have 1 hole on one end, 2 on the other. So, as we always say, attention to detail. All right, so also you can see the pockets on these. This one has one here adjacent to each other, and one actually orients down, the other orients to the inside, and this one has one at the top, and one orients to the outside here. It says to insert 8 pieces of the M5 down along here. So I guess you do that now, obviously, before you slide these on, because you're not going to be able to get through there with a pocket like you can on the other surfaces. And we'll just slide those bad boys here into the ends. All right, 8 pieces there. And then it looks like slide these pieces down. And then we'll go ahead and tighten up the screws. So we'll get those tightened up and show you the completed assembly here. All right, so we've got this back part here. Now the next step calls for this back panel here. Now, I will tell you, it looks symmetrical, but this piece here, which holds a socket, it's actually closer to this edge, and according to the instructions, that would go up there. So I put in 4 square nuts here and here. I was, questioning about the square nuts I had made me put down here, and those are going to be used later for the hinges when this hinges to the top back cabinet, which I found I have another issue with that can be fixed, of course, a little frustrating, but we'll get there. So just keep in mind this is not centered, and it orients to the top of this piece. So we'll go ahead and get those screwed down with those nuts. Okay, so this is another one where you need to pay attention. So these are 360 millimeter length, and these 2 are the same, and these 2 are the same, but how you position them. So on this one, they only have two little pockets right here, and so those orient the way I had it in here, like this. And originally I had on this one also has 2 pockets, but it also has a pocket on this side too, which goes to the outside. So this one goes inside, this one goes down, and then this goes to the outside. So, and then the same thing for this one. It has inside, down, and one on the outside here, and then this one just has one on the inside and one on the top. So just once again, the pockets are important when you're going to have to add the M5 square nuts later. So we'll get these mounted up, and then we'll show you the next step. Okay, so I'm on the last 625s, and this particular one on the drawing, you can see there's only 2 pockets, and the 2 remaining ones I have actually have 3 pockets. And so, which is not a problem, because the square nuts are going to go in those 2 locations anyway. But then when I was looking at the back of the unit, I was looking ahead of the instructions, I saw that there was pieces that were going to mount here to the back of the unit on this, and there's no pocket on this one. In fact, if you look at the original instructions, it calls for this to only have 2 pockets. 1 pocket here, and then 1 pocket here along here. And now I'm thinking that those 2 that I have there were supposed to go on the top here. So I'm gonna have to use a Dremel down the road. I hate doing stuff like this, but it should be pretty easy to put a Dremel and put a pocket in here so I can get the square nuts in for that step. But just I'll have to make a note with Thomas that I think he's got the wrong profiles in the very first instructions for the bottom frame assembly. So I'll have to make note of that, and hopefully he'll get that changed. So with that said, then I just need to go ahead and mount this here. Got the square nuts lined up, and you can see this is the back of the unit here. So we just need to make sure we've got it oriented properly. So we'll go ahead and get that attached. We've got the first part, they're done with those, and then we'll complete this. Okay, remember I said these there was two different types of corner pieces, and to pay attention. I don't think they're supposed to be different actually. These ends are missing a tapped hole because the diagram, the instructions show two holes on both ends. It makes sense because when it installs on here, we want to be able to snug up both corners. So looks like I may have got a couple parts that didn't get finished here. And I'm also short a bunch of M58. It says 40 pieces, and I don't know, I may have used them somewhere else. Maybe, I have no idea, but I'm about 25 short to complete the put on the end of all the end rails here, unless I don't need them for the others, and maybe I don't. So I'm short. I just need to, I might be able to substitute. To be honest with you, I could probably use the M510s. And they gave me 130 there. I'll be using those later, but I can always buy more later. All right, so we've got this put together, and I went ahead and I've marked this. I'm going to have the guys, it's just a drill hole to locate the screw to tighten it up, and so we'll do that. I put one there and one on the bottom, so we'll just get those drilled later. That's the one part. And then the next part calls for these. These are 611 millimeter profiles, and he's got two holes here on this end, and they've got 3 pockets. So basically one down, one there, and one on the top as you orient it. And then this one's the opposite. It's got that one there. So and then the holes here align with these holes. So then we use these 2 cross braces, the 198s, and these 198s here will come in for the instructions. So we'll get those prepped and put on here. Okay, so on this section, I've got the pockets aligned right. It was a little confusing in the instructions because you'll see here it says missing M510 screws at the ends of these. The washer goes under the screws. So when it said missing, I wasn't sure, but basically put your Teflon washer on there and then put in the M510 screws, and then you can see and make sure these pockets are oriented properly for the instructions, and then you can see how these just slide right in there like this. They'll align with those holes that we saw earlier, and then same thing here. Make sure the pockets are oriented properly. And slide those in there. And then we'll tighten those up, those cross beams there. So that gets this section done here. It doesn't say on the next step, doesn't say to tighten these down or anything, but I just think it's missing. So we'll go ahead and do that and get that tightened down. Okay, so the next step, it says use a self-adhesive, a 20 by 2 millimeter silicone strip. So this is what comes in the kit, just this long strip. And so basically you had this piece here that had this shape. And so I cut this into 2 halves so they fit, and then pressed it down in there, and then just took an X-Acto and trimmed it up. And so this is there, gives you that. It's called a thermo camera silicone sealing. So you have to make this part yourself in step 99 out of this piece. So that's the final, then it sits right there. So the next step actually has you flipping it over. And I made this from the previous step. So it has this flipping it over, and I need to get the orientation right. It looks like it flips like this, and it'll sit down in here. So it looks like we may probably need some square nuts here in this channel. And I'm finding it hard to believe. Yeah, it looks like it will fit in there. So yeah, so that sits over there like this. And then we'll take some, it looks like we have some Teflon washers that we're gonna use. And then our M512 button head screws, and go ahead and put this piece down on there. Okay, so it says it in the instructions, but just put a little bit of the red silicone and attach the washer to this plate here. And then that way you're able to align and use your little tool to kind of align the square nuts underneath. Once you get that in place, then you can put in your the button head screws here. So that is completion of that. And now it looks like we've got some top left inside cover, top right inside cover. So let's get those parts and the washers together and get ready to assemble those. And it looks like we're gonna have to put some square nuts as well into the side. This actually shows it now reversed like this. So we've got square nuts spots there and a slot there to put the square nuts. Okay, so just it has this flipped upside down now. And then these two covers, they're looks symmetrical. So neither one matters. Same. So these will slide up in here. We'll put the Teflon washer on the back side of this. So I'll just go ahead and put it on pressed forward, and you can see I keep a little bit of that red silicone here to dab onto my washer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So, okay, so as you can see, went on there fairly easy, and I would just say that just make sure the edge of these are flush with the edge there. So both of those are flush, so that's in the right place. So once it is, you can tighten that down. So then I'm going to go and do the other side. It won't look much, it's pretty much the same. So I'll do that and we'll come back and get ready for the next step. Okay, so we got both the ends on, and now the next part calls for these top back covers. So these will both go there. They'll be flush once again with the ends here, so we'll know where they go. So they take some Teflon washer and the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and get those installed, and should be pretty simple. So I'll be back after I complete that step. Okay, so this is the final with the side plates here. Everything's flushed up here on the ends. So now we're going to go ahead, and it calls for the next step. It takes this, calls it the top left cover, and you can see two countersunk holes. It takes M512s, and when you rotate the picture here on the instructions, then you can see that these are oriented towards the bottom here, and we'll install on the end of those profiles. So we'll go ahead and get that one installed. All right, so we've got the end panels on. Now we've got to orient this correctly. So you can see this piece here is in the back, and in the picture, of course, this is the front. So it basically shows this dropping down into here. And this is probably where we needed to loosen some of these to get them to fit down in there, because it's a pretty tight tolerance. So I'm going to give these a little loosen up to be able to drop it in there. It says to slide in the M square nuts into the profiles, and so I'd need to get some square nuts obviously in the inside of the profiles so that these can attach. I haven't done that yet. So I'll go ahead and get the square nuts put in and get these loosened up so this can slide down in there and basically attach this. I think that's a pretty simple step. Probably don't need to show you me doing that, but I'll go ahead and get this prepped. Okay, so this is going to be a challenge. So you've got 3 square nuts you got to line on the top and bottom on both ends. So what I did was I dropped this in here and unsupported, and that way it fits in between this panel, and that way I could actually align the square nuts this way. I can see where the holes drop down, I'll align them. So before I drop everything down in there, I'll know that it fits. So everything looks like it's aligned now, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop this down. I loosen these up so it slides in there, and we should be able to then get those tightened up. It'll be a challenge, but at least we got a good start. Okay, dropping this panel down into this was actually a little difficult. As you can imagine, it fits in there pretty tight, and these obviously button head screws along the edges actually interfere as you slide this down. So obviously I had loosened all the corners to help, but it was still a little difficult. And what ended up happening was, since I had loosened these corners, one of these had actually fallen out. And that was the best thing that could have happened. So I found out, just remove one of these corner pieces. It opens up this, that panel fits down in there, and voila. Now I will tell you, definitely use a red silicone and get it to the back panel and let it sit and dry and stick, because those are a bear. If you don't, you'll have all sorts of problems getting everything to align. So this, overall, this took a little bit of effort, but now that I know the trick, it'd go a lot quicker. So there you go, some advice. Okay, so the next step, it shows this cable clip big, and this is a 3D printed part, of course, and it looks like it inserts in here. Let's move on to the next step. So now this shows it mounting on top of the main cabinet. You know, we inserted these square nuts before we assembled this, and what I noticed on the bottom assembly, there are no square nuts in that back rail. And then I realized, I think Thomas had called out the wrong rail in the very first bottom frame assembly. So I sent him a note on that, but so hopefully I'll have that changed. But I'm gonna have to take a Dremel and open up a channel so I can get the square nuts in for the next steps. Okay, so we've added the hinges here. That was the step. And it basically had to insert the square nuts. Now I had to Dremel out a hole here because this top profile piece I think was identified wrong in the instructions. So I had to Dremel out a little hole to get the square nuts in there. And then now you have the hinges. And it basically says when you screw these in, you lift this unit up and then tighten them up, and it leaves this gap here that's necessary. So now we're going to start on the back cabinet electronics. And I also noticed once again that that piece is attached, and I'm going to have to Dremel out another hole down here on the bottom piece because I think that profile was wrong, right? Or I oriented something wrong. So I'll have to Dremel that out, and then we'll be ready to add the other pieces. Okay, so the next step here calls for this gas damper here, and these brackets, and these brackets will mount to the side of the cabinet here, and down here and one up here. And it says to use the M5 screws here. Unfortunately, M5 screws don't fit. These holes are too small. So I'm gonna have to get these drilled out. And I also ran out of M5/8, the button head. Not sure where they all went. I know they used on the ends of the profiles and different things, but somehow I've used them all up. So I had to order some more on Amazon. Nobody local carries the 8mm length. So anyway, this will go on pause, and I'll just move on to some of the other operations. All right, so we've got a bunch of parts we need to install on this electrical box side. This is the left side. And so there's basically three 3D printed parts. These back, and they're shaped different. This one has a chamfer. This is just an L, and this is just a little block. And then we're also going to install the RJ45 adapter here. And we're going to end up putting this big clip on here, as well as the power. So this particular one was located in the a wiring box, and then this was in the electronics RJ45. So you got to search around a little bit for what you're looking for. So we'll go ahead and assemble this per the instructions. All right, so this is assembled up pretty easy. The only thing I would say here is this piece here with the chamfer. The first one I had, the chamfer was wrong, and at first I thought, oh my God, they printed the part wrong. But there's actually a left and right side, so it's not very clear, obviously, from the instructions, but there's another one of these in the 3D parts, and it's just an opposite profile of this one. So it'll go on the other side. Just want to make you aware that there are two of these. These all use different types of screws, so just pay attention to what they're asking for, and you shouldn't have any problems. So the other side is pretty much the same parts on this side. And I would just say, when you look at your parts, there's this little square one, the hole's offset. When you look in your 3D parts, there's some of these others, they're a little smaller, and the holes in the center. These are not the part for here. This is the part. I think it's obvious when you look at the print, but just calling that out in case you happen to run across that and think that's the right piece. So we'll go ahead and get this one assembled. And also there's an electronic board. This is the 01 board goes on here, along with the Arduino board. Nano board will insert on top of that, as you see in the instructions. So we'll go ahead and get this piece set up as well. So in the next few steps, we're going to be handling some electronics. So I typically like to make sure that when I'm working on electronics, I use an anti-static mat and a wristband as well. So I've got this mat, it's grounded to this table, metal table, and then obviously I'll want to wear this ground myself, obviously, when I'm working around. So this is kind of how I'm going to operate. You could take your chances with electronics. I'm actually on a rug here in this location, so chances of me creating some static is probably pretty high. It's a rainy, humid day out, surprisingly, for December 31st. So I don't want to take any chances. So when I handle this board here and the future boards, I always want to make sure that I'm grounded. So I recommend you do the same and have some sort of anti-static protection device. Okay, so in this step, this is the Nano board. It was already installed on the 01 board, but to access one of the screw holes, you need to just pull this off, just so it just lifts off. And then it says, obviously, use these 5mm. These are in a bag. There's different size standoffs that they provided. So these are the 5mm. So these will sit here, and then this will sit off the board here. Okay, so that's a step, and then we'll mount this on here and make sure the pins align here, and then just slightly set that down in there. Okay, all set. Okay, and these are the panels then installed on the sides. So that piece angles under here, and then square nuts here, and then I had to Dremel out space to put square nuts here. And so this is the one side, and then this is the other side that's got the board in it. So, all right, on to the next step. And so actually the next step, it says we're all done with this assembly. So now we're going to get into the optics, and this is where we got to be a little more careful on how we handle everything as well. So that we'll start mounting some stuff up here at the top.